Good morning Year 6 and welcome to our next home learning lesson. Today's learning objective is to be able to multiply numbers with 2 decimal places by 1-digit numbers. Let's look at these two calculations. 487 times by 9 and 4.87 times by 9. How would you answer these? And what do you already know about these pairs of numbers? That's right. The answer to the first will be 100 times the second. We can use this knowledge to help us work out multiplications of decimals. You just need to be aware of the decimal point. To answer these questions, you will need to use the compact short multiplication method. So let's look at how to do short multiplication. We're going to answer the question 487 times by 9. First, the multiplication needs to be structured properly with the numbers being in the correct place value and in columns. Step number 1, we multiply the number in the units column by the multiplier and carry the tens over to the tens column. As you can see, 7 times 9 equals 63. We've put the units in the units column and carried over the tens. The next step is to multiply the number in the tens column by the multiplier and carry over the hundreds to the hundreds column. But remember to add the tens that we were carrying over earlier. So this would be 9 times 8. 9 times 8 is 72, but we have to add the 6 on that we carried over earlier, making 78. 8 goes in the tens column and the 7 is carried over to the hundreds. And the final step is to multiply the numbers in the hundreds column by the multiplier and carry over any thousands into the thousands column. But this time we won't place it underneath, we'll place it next to the hundreds, as this is the final calculation. But remember to add any of the hundreds that we carry over as well. So this time we're looking at 9 times 4. 9 times 4 is 36. But we have to add the 7 as well, making 43. That will give us our final answer of 4,383. Now we've looked at how to multiply whole numbers, we can use the same method to multiply decimals. We just have to be aware of the place values that we're using and make sure that the decimal point is used. So again, before we start to multiply, make sure that the calculation is in the correct place values and the decimal point is in the correct place. So, first, we multiply the number in the hundredths column by the multiplier and carry over to the tenths column. Very similar to the first step in the last one, but just the names of the place values are different. So 0.07 or 7 hundredths times by 9 is 0.63. We place the 0.03 in the hundredths column and we carry over the 0.6 to the tenths column. Your next step is to multiply the number in the tenths column by the multiplier and carry over the units to the units column. Remember to add the tenths that were carried over. So this time it's 0.8 times by 9. That gives us 7.2, but we have to add the 6/10 that were carried over last time, so that gives us 7.8. The 0.8 goes into the tenths column, and the 7 units are carried over to the units column. And finally, we multiply the number in the units column by the multiplier and carry the tens over to the tens column. But this time, remember, as it's the last one, we don't put the tens that we carry over underneath, we put it in line. Remember to add any units that were carried over. So this time it's 4 times 9. We know that 4 times 9 is 36, but we have to add the 7 units that were carried over from last time, giving us 43. That now makes our final answer 43.83. I'd now like you to use your knowledge of short multiplication to answer these questions. Remember to be aware of your place values when you're first writing your question, and don't forget to add on any numbers that you carry over. And always be aware of your decimal point. Pause the video now and give these 10 questions a go. If you're struggling, I'd only like you to answer the first 3. Here are the answers. Pause the video and mark your work. And any that you've got incorrect, make sure you go back and identify where you made your mistake and try and learn from this. As we all know, mistakes are important as long as we learn from them. Time for today's main task. Complete the worksheets on the Year 6 Home Learning page on the school website. Start with the green sheet to secure your learning, and then move on to the blue and finally orange when you're ready for a challenge. Finally, here's a challenge. Have you mastered mental multiplication of decimals? Try using your mental strategies to answer these. If not, you can still use a written method if you're unsure. Well done everyone. That's the end of today's lesson. See you tomorrow for the next home learning lesson.